Let me tell you about Robert Wade. Robert Graham Wade was born April 10th, 1921, passed away November 29th, 2008. He was New Zealand champion 3 times and then British champion 2 times. He wrote several chess books, including The Games of Robert J. Fischer, containing virtually all of Bobby Fischer's games. So, interesting guy, Robert Wade. Bobby, of course, with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez, a6, Paul Morphy's, bishop a4, the Columbus variation, knight f6. He castles to the king's side. Bishop e7 is your closed Spanish. Rook e1, pawn b5, bishop b3, kingside castles, pawn c3, pawn d6, pawn h3, Paul Geddes' variation, of course. You should know that name, Paul Geddes, the great Estonian grandmaster who never quite made it in the world championship. One of the greatest players not to ever have become world champion. Now, here Wade abandons the openings book and plays queen d7. You'll note the bot is recommending bishop e6, but the book move, of course, you should know by now. If you've been watching this program any length of time, you know the book move is knight a5 and then bishop c2, pawn c5, pawn d4, and then queen c7 is Mikhail Chigorin's defense. Queen's knight d2, c takes d4, c takes d4, knight back to c6 is Vasily Panov's system, knight to the b3 here, then pawn a5, bishop e3 right here, pawn a4 sends that knight packing back to the d2 square. Now bishop d7, we get rook c1 on the open file, lining up with the queen here. So the queen sidesteps to b7, and then there are 2 moves that could be played here. Either queen e2, which is answered by king's rook to e8, or knight f1, and that knight's coming to g3 in most cases, sometimes to e3, but since that bishop is there, not going to happen in this example. After knight f1, you get the king's rook to e8 anyway, and then the knight does come to g3, and you'll get something like bishop d8 and queen e2 anyway. All right, all of those lines can be found in your Encyclopedia of Chess Openings, Volume C, Section 97. Coming back, Queen d7 by Robert Wade, leaving the encyclopedia on the shelf. Now d4 from Fischer, rook to e8, queen's knight to d2, bishop f8, pawn d5, knight e7, knight f1, pawn g6, yeah. Well, you could play knight g6. This bishop is not a very happy camper, is he? Even if you play knight g6, what did it say? It said pawn h6. Wonder about knight g6. It is a check mark. Black is really constricted in this opening. His queen's bishop has nowhere to go along the c8 h3 diagonal, and it has nowhere to really go along the a8 h1 diagonal because these pawns obstruct everything and control. So the queen's bishop is miserable. The king's bishop presently is paralyzed, so it's quite natural for Wade to want to give it somewhere to go and play g6. Knight g6 should be playable so that you can bring your bishop back, but really, what's it going to do there? It's boxed in by his own pieces. So both bishops miserable for black in this position. White's bishops are only a little bit better. The queen's bishop has at least some scope, whereas the king's bishop is also boxed in by his own. Now, the idea in this opening is for the bishop to come to c2, push this pawn eventually to f4 in hopes of a trade and opening the b1 h7 diagonal. g6 was played by Robert Graham Wade. Now c4 for Fischer, marked inaccurate. I guess, yeah, the point here is it's better to accost this b-man with the a-man, apparently. Better to put the question to the b-man using the a-man. Ironically, now the bot says, no, bishop g5. So on Bobby's move, oh, it doesn't, I thought it said A4 over here. Oh, look, this is ironic. The annotator is marking it as inaccurate, but the analysis is saying it's best. We've got three engines here. The annotator, which gives the symbols, the analysis, which gives the best move, and then the eval bar, which gives you the approximate weight of the game. This is weird. You know, C4 marked inaccurate by the annotator, but the analysis engine says no, it's the best move. But when I could have sworn it said A4, and I put that up saying it's better to address this from this side, and that's marked good, but now we're told bishop G5 is best. Ficklebot being weird again. All right, so C4, let's just take that out of there. If it's best, it deserves a star. Bishop G7, and now we're not getting any symbols. All right, something went crazy. Look at this, ladies. Oh, there it is. A4 is best. A4 is best, it says. Hold on, right there. All right, C4 from Bobby Fischer. Bishop G7. C5, knight H5. That's a mistake, according to the bot, but who knows these days? It says C6 is the best. I was looking at pawn takes pawn, marked inaccurate. Knight H5 was played, and now pawn A4. Big red X. Play C6 first. Move the queen to D8, and then push your pawn. Queen would have to come back, and now you play pawn A4, no doubt. Get a star. A4 right away from Fischer. Now D takes C5. Didn't like it when I wanted it, but now it gets a star. A takes B5. Bishop B7. B takes A6. Bishop takes A6. Bishop E3. Bishop G5 called for here. So Bishop G5, and black has got to worry about this piece relationship, and Bishop A4. He would probably play Bishop B5 to stop that. I get a check mark. I can focus on this pawn again with rook c1. No, marked inaccurate. Just trade rooks, it says. I don't like the idea of trading rooks myself and relinquishing the open file to my opponent. Why would I want to do that? Not real clear. Well, the bot is saying simplify, basically. All right, well, Bishop E3 is what Bobby Fischer played. Now C4. Bishop A4, as mentioned, and it's marked inaccurate. I thought this is a great move. I have no idea why that's marked as an inaccuracy. It's the move I mentioned a moment ago, and the move we all expected, isn't it? Well, Bishop B5 is played here, interposing. It's really the only move. Bishop takes the bishop, and queen takes the bishop. Queen c2 here. Pawn f5. Rook takes rook here. And now rook takes rook, and pawn g4. Marked inaccurate. Bishop g5 attacked the undefended knight. Puts him in an awkward spot. Where's he going to put that knight? You know what? You can interpose with this knight. You can interpose with this knight, or you can counterattack is another thing you can do. Generally, when you have a choice between a passive move like knight to f6 or an active move like pawn takes pawn, usually the active move is going to be better. So I predict that this will prove to be better than this. Right now we're at point 3. Let's look at the move I think is better. Get a star, and we're at point 4. Now the move I think works but is not as good. It's a big red X, and we're at 1.1. So that's quite a difference. So I called that one correctly. Anyway, G4 is played here by Fischer. F takes E4. Queen takes E4. Now knight F6. Queen takes E5. Queen takes the D5 pawn. Knight E takes D5 being called for. Put these knights in tandem. Why knight D when knight F creates a discovered attack? Let's see. If knight F... Oh, because queen E6. That's why. Yeah, obvious. All right, so knight E takes D5 being called for. Well, I mean, I'm still queen E6, though, aren't I? I'm still going to give the check, to be honest. It's going to be the same either way. But the big difference is now this knight is defended, and this knight can come here, compared to the other way around. If you move this knight, you can't do anything. They have to stay in tandem because they're defending each other. By taking with this knight is defended. Everybody's defended. There's a little bit more liberty going on. All right. Queen takes d5, queen takes knight on e7, queen takes the knight on f3. Inaccurate, rook e8. Yeah, rook e8, hit the queen. I'll take your pawn, thank you. And after you take my knight, I think I'll take... Maybe I should bring my rook up and over here, or just take the pawn. Pawn grab comes with check is the thing. They both should be good. Let's see what we get for each. I'm going to try rook a1, a star. I'm going to try queen takes pawn, a star. All right, queen takes f3 was played by Robert Wade. Now queen e6 check. Don't play bishop d4 here. Don't try to get cute and say, okay, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. The problem with this is rook e8. Oh no. And when you make your queen safe, you lose your undefended rook. I can defend actually, so never mind. I can defend. Of course, I've allowed my opponent to equalize. Yeah, so I stand by my first statement. Don't play bishop to d4. That lets him equalize. Queen e6 check. King h8, bishop d4 now. And that, of course, is very strong. And my knight's ready to get into the game with an attack on his queen here. Rook f8, trying to get something going here. But rook e3, black simply is not fast enough. Queen b7 then. Queen takes c4. And now rook e7 is looming. You don't want to play queen e7 here, because now queen d5, attacking the bishop, and after bishop c3, you don't want to take the knight. After bishop c3, queen f7. You don't want to take the knight on bishop takes knight, rook takes. After queen takes the pawn, I think rook back to f8 and you're fine. Look at that eval bar, practically equal. Queen takes c4 here by Bobby Fischer. Knight d5, hitting the rook, and it also prevents the rook from coming to the e7 square. So rook b3 hits the queen. Knight b6 interposes. You might play queen a8 instead to renew the threat of bishop takes bishop here. Play here, perhaps. It says it's best, and so that creates this threat, although we are defended, so maybe it's not a real threat, right? I think after knight e3, knight takes knight, rook takes knight, and white is Jim Dandy. Don't play bishop takes bishop, I don't think. We'll come back to this in a moment. From here, the best I think you can try is the super attack here. Yeah, then I could actually have to play bishop takes bishop. Yeah. And I am up upon slightly more active pieces. Do not here play bishop takes bishop. On bishop takes bishop, king takes bishop, queen d4. Actually, it should work anyway. Should still work. It's really the same thing. It's just different. You can play bishop takes bishop, actually. Let's go back. Knight b6 was played. Bishop takes bishop, check. King takes bishop. Queen d4, check. Marked inaccurate. Queen c2 preferred. Why queen c2 and not queen e2? Queen e2 gets a check mark. It feels more natural to me. The queen has more scope from e2 than c2, doesn't she? Anyway, Bobby with queen d4 check. King g8. I mean, he's got the advantage. He's going to just take the simplest and most direct route. Knight e3 finally getting that back into the field of play and preventing the queen from occupying d5. Rook f7, pawn g5, and that vacates g4 for the knight. Two different wares to go. Actually, we want to play there, don't we? That's a nice vacancy with a fork to follow. So h5 says, oh no you don't. Of course, all beginners know that if you can take en passant, you must take en passant. En passant, not the best move here. I mean, you could play it and probably still be fine. Let's see what it says. It actually gives you a star. But rook d3, you could also play rook c3. Rook d3 also gets a star. What does rook c3 get? That gets a check mark. So you can play en passant, rook d3, the best move. Queen f3 from Robert Wade, marked as a mistake. King h7 being called for. Maybe queen a8 would be worth a try. Get a thumbs up. I guess the problem is rook a3, right? Hits the queen. It gets a check mark. Okay, come back. Queen f3 was played. Knight g4. Oh, what a move that is. What a move that is. Oh, that is delicious. Please take my knight because your queen is en prise. Nice discovered attack. Well, amazingly, he took the knight. Is there no way to save the queen? There's nowhere to put the queen. You might be wondering about queen f5. The problem is, notice that that allows a fork with the knight. So f5 is safe for a move. That's it. This is trouble because this is coming here one way or the other, isn't it? So he played pawn takes the knight. That was a great move by Bobby. And of course, rook takes the queen. And black says, okay, I've got a rook and a knight for a queen. Maybe I can defend. That's 8 points again. against 9 points, and the compensation for the 1 point difference is you get 2 pieces to only 1. So pawn takes the rook, queen e4, king g7, queen e5 check, king g8, pawn h4, king h7, pawn b4, knight c4, hits the queen, queen e6, forks the knight and the rook, knight d6. Bobby Fischer plays the beautiful b5 here. The knight is overworked, so black resigned. The point of b5 is to take advantage of an overworked knight. The knight can't both take the pawn and defend the rook. And pawn b6 now takes an advantage of an overworked pawn. You can't both take the pawn and defend the knight. So you'd have to move your knight somewhere safe first. But now I grab the pawn, and there's absolutely nothing that can stop the pawn from promoting. The rook cannot come to c4 because my queen covers that square. It's all over but the crying, so he resigned after b5. Let's look at the numbers. 94.6 accuracy for Bobby Fischer with a single game rating of 2,900. Oh yeah, well done.